For a decade and a half, I firmly believed that my marriage to Claire Robinson was ideal. Every weekend cookout, holiday vacation, and Sunday meal in our lovely four-bedroom home in that peaceful suburban area seemed to celebrate a dream that many people aspired to. As a senior architect, I designed skyline-defining luxury structures, and despite my hectic schedule, I took pleasure in building things that represented stability and prosperity, much like the life I believed I had constructed with Claire. She, on the other hand, worked in corporate finance and took regular business trips. Despite her busy work, which included meetings and high-stakes negotiations, she always made time for her family. Grinning when she left and returned, she reassured me that our love and our common goals were as unwavering as ever. I so clearly recall those early days when she would spin about our new foundations that I had poured in stone, planning lavish dinner parties, trips to distant places, and even peaceful afternoons spent observing the sunset through our expansive windows. The glossy floor tiles that shone in the gentle light bore the bespoke nameplate we had carefully and proudly picked for our residence. I had built the house, and the plate on the front door proudly declared, "Robinson, a monument to our shared legacy." With my own two hands, or at the very least, with my own eyes and resolute will, I was confident that it wasn't just a building, but a haven that would protect our love and raise our family as we aged together. I treasured the customs that characterized our family life. Sunday dinners where my parents and younger brother Jake joined us for hearty chatter and fun. Retreats where the outside world vanished as we cherished our relationship. And weekend cookouts that transformed our garden into a space of happiness and camaraderie. But behind every meticulously planned occasion, there was an underlying sense of discomfort, one I made a valiant effort to ignore. I think back to the brief moments when Claire and someone else exchanged looks, or when she hesitated for just a moment. The enormous urge to believe in our stability would swiftly crush any doubts that might arise, buried beneath a pleasant smile. Wanted to have complete faith in her, to hold on to the idea that we were a team bound by unbreakable loyalty. So, even if my own heart's war cries grew louder every day, I suppressed them. I believed that perfection wasn't just achievable but sustainable, that the love we had nurtured for over a decade would last forever, impervious to the whims of human nature. I imagined a time when every decision we made, every vow we whispered, would serve as evidence of our union's unquestionable strength. In my naive ignorance, I took pleasure in our life's stability, not realizing that the facade of perfection was just that, a fragile illusion concealing a betrayal so deep it would eventually unravel. I didn't realize that behind the laughter and smiles at our family table, secrets were being kept, ones that would eventually collapse like a house of cards. I would be forced to face the harsh reality that those I trusted most could humiliate me in a way that would leave me permanently scarred. With every step I took through our home, the echoes of our happy celebrations reverberated with a bittersweet irony. Every reminder of our dreams built on broken promises was about to be shattered. The seeds of treachery had already been sown, waiting in the shadows for the perfect moment to destroy the illusion I had spent 10 years crafting. Perfection is a facade, a fragile image that can crumble in an instant, leaving behind the bitter sting of betrayal and the agonizing realization that dishonesty can destroy even the strongest relationships. As I neared the end of the life I once thought was perfect, I had to face the truth. Everything I had built, every custom, every thoughtfully selected element, was ultimately just a foundation for my greatest humiliation. The betrayal I uncovered would require me to rebuild not just my home, but my entire identity. It started with small changes. A morning text message, once filled with loving banter, became curt and distant. Claire began dressing differently, choosing outfits that highlighted a side of her I had never noticed before. She suddenly had a deep interest in fitness, spending hours at the gym with a newfound passion, one that was both admirable and unsettling. But what disturbed me most was the way she guarded her phone like a sacred artifact, leaving it face down, during meals and checking it surreptitiously whenever she thought I wasn't watching. The smile that played on her lips as she read texts she wouldn't share sent chills down my spine. I recall the day she announced a business trip to Hawaii, a 2-week getaway, fully funded by her firm. "It's very important for my career," she assured me, her tone light and confident. I took her words at face value, reassuring myself that sometimes career demands took precedence. But then, small irregularities began to surface. My brother Jake avoided my gaze when I casually mentioned her trip. My normally excited parents postponed their visit with flimsy excuses. A nagging suspicion took root in my chest. At first, I dismissed it, convinced that these were random events, trivial concerns that would eventually resolve themselves. But the evidence was mounting. Then came the final blow. I checked my airline miles account, only to find that a first-class ticket had been purchased for Claire's flight. A ticket bought with miles I had painstakingly accumulated over the years. A freight train of realization hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a meticulously planned deception, financially, emotionally, and as a man who had upheld the values of family, I felt utterly destroyed. But instead of lashing out, I sat in silence, my hands shaking. And then, with quiet determination, I made a decision that would change everything. I picked up my keys, booked a last-minute flight to Hawaii. I would face the betrayal head-on. As I drove away from the life I thought I knew, my mind raced. I considered every laugh, every memory we had created in our so-called perfect home. And with each mile that passed, my heartbreak transformed into something new, an unrelenting resolve. I would gather every bit of evidence. I would ensure that those who betrayed me paid dearly. And when I arrived, I would make sure the truth was exposed for all to see, because I wasn't just going to be a victim, I was going to fight back. Records of the illegal transfers and the depleted bank accounts that were promised a stable future for our family. Andrew's response was unwavering and resolute. He outlined how their actions were a planned act of financial fraud, and a scam, rather, than just a personal betrayal. Things could and would be taken apart in that moment when I discovered that Claire and her partner had transferred the ownership of our house using fabricated paperwork containing my signature, one I had never seen, one that would never have been approved. And the house wasn't the only thing that cost money. My diligently accumulated wealth was now hidden in offshore shell corporations, where it was efficiently drained. I spent many restless nights going over bank statements and financial data, the process almost clinical. Every transaction was a dagger that validated the extent of their dishonesty. The 529 plan I had established for our daughters, who were supposed to pursue their education and preserve our legacy, had been wiped out, depleted. Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent. On every luxury item I had once thought was ours to share, our triumphant celebrations, now nothing more than a planned attempt to strip me of my financial security. I watched in disbelief as the total amount on my screen reached an astounding $775,000. Not only a breach of my confidence, but a blatant theft of the future I had built. Yet in the harsh, frigid light of that moment, clarity emerged. I had a financial nightmare, but the paper trail, their arrogance, gave me the tools I needed. Without a doubt, I started working carefully with financial detectives and forensic accountants, each meeting held in a sterile conference room. Every phone call, every email, every piece of evidence was another brick in the trap I was setting. I worked tirelessly, setting up fraud warnings on every account, ensuring that not another stolen dollar would vanish without a trace. In the dim glow of my study, surrounded by stacks of documents, my computer hummed as I pressed forward. The road ahead would be complicated. Court cases, the tedious task of rebuilding what they had stolen. But I was ready. The financial trap was laid out, every falsified document compiled, every fraudulent transaction cross-referenced. And then I could practically taste the vindication. I would recover everything they took. Every number that had once promised a safe future, now a testament to their treachery. Their crime would be their downfall. I turned their deception into the very foundation of my retaliation. And as dawn broke the following morning, inevitability set in. My attorney, Andrew Sterling, moved swiftly. The falsified paperwork was challenged. Every account linked to Claire and her accomplice frozen. They took my house. So I sat in a small hotel room, my makeshift headquarters for the battle ahead. I watched Titan, the trap I had so meticulously set, slowly tighten around them. Every forensic accounting consultation, every signed affidavit, every recorded transaction was a weight pushing down on their fraudulent empire. And it was crumbling. As I pored over James's financial records, as professional examiners meticulously compared the forged signatures to mine, I saw it all fall apart. Every lie was cataloged, stacked, and weaponized against them. Then the final piece, the return ticket, the same airline, the same flight. A silent declaration that their escape route was an illusion. Then, the knock. Urgent. Claire and Jake stood at my doorway. Chaos and fear painted across their faces. Claire's voice trembled. "Please, I silenced her with an icy smirk. "Oh," I murmured, voice precise and deliberate. It was premeditated. Their gazes flickered to the printed boarding pass in my hand. Their names, proof that I had been waiting for this moment. Claire's face twisted in desperation. "I'm sorry, I cut her off. "Claire, I understand completely." Jake, usually so confident, stammered, "We can fix this, man. Just help us." I let the silence drag. Then I did the unthinkable. I invited them in, as if I was offering them comfort, as if I was offering them a way out, and the door shut behind them. Then another knock. Not frantic, not desperate. Official. The federal agents moved with precision. Justice. Inevitable. Claire screamed as she was restrained. Jake collapsed under the weight of what he had done. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. The bitterness matched the moment. And then I spoke. "I don't help. Criminals." Their fate was sealed in a single sentence. Within moments, they were gone, their cries for mercy unanswered, and as the door closed behind them, a wave of finality settled over me. Justice had arrived, and I knew I would never be deceived again. Now, the long process of rebuilding could begin. I would reclaim what was mine. I would ensure my daughters had a future untouched by betrayal, and I would stand stronger than ever before. Because in the end, betrayal is temporary. But justice? Justice is inevitable.